Ordinary Council meeting. It is Tuesday, the 26th of April 2022, 5:30. Council acknowledge and pays respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of the land on which we meet. All persons in attendance are advised that it is Council policy to record Council meetings in accordance with Council's digital recording policy. The digital recording of this meeting will be made available to the public on Council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. The meeting is also being live streamed by Council's YouTube channel. Item 1 is apologies, and we have a full complement of councillors present tonight, so there will be none. Item 2 is declarations of interest, and I'll ask councillors if they have any declarations of interest in any item on the open part of the agenda, please. No? Excellent. Moving on to items 3, procedural matters on the agenda. Item 3.1 is confirmation of the minutes of the 28th of March. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Hollister, thank you. Seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Melbourne, thank you. Councillor Hollister, any comments?
All the minutes, nothing further to add.
Thank you. Councillor Melbourne?
Nothing further.
Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Hollister to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 3.2 is public question time, and item 3.2.1 is responses to questions raised at prior meetings, and there is a recommendation here for responses. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Perry and Councillor Hollister. Councillor Perry.
Procedural matters.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Perry to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 3.2.2 is questions on notice from the public, and we have some questions there and a recommendation. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Laycock, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Alexia, thank you. Councillor Laycock.
Nothing to add.
Councillor Alexia.
Nothing further, Madam Member.
Are there any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Laycock to close the debate.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 3.2.3 is questions without notice from the public, which is the opportunity for members of the gallery to step forward, stating your name and address and asking your questions, please. Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Rodney Russell, Devonport, 225 Still Street, Devonport. Question: does Devonport City Council at the moment have a written policy on the release of balloons at functions within the municipality, considering their effect on the environment?
Yeah, through me, there's no city policy just about the balloons. I guess it's picked up in actions within our waste strategy more broadly.
Thank you. Devonport City Council have recently had on-street parking bays marked on the road pavement in Fenton Street between Stewart and Newton on the west side, the lengths of which vary from 5.2 metres to 6.4 metres. Question: why such a difference? Is there not a standard length?
Yeah, through you there. It would relate to the available space between driveways and corners and so on. So I guess the spaces are made as large as possible, balancing that with maximising that. So there's a minimum size. However, if they can be, there's a range. So if they can be made slightly smaller, slightly larger, they will be. So it's guided within the overall distance between the driveways or the intersection or whatever might be the case.
Do you know the minimum and maximum?
Through the mayor, we need to take that on notice.
Okay.
I'm sure whoever did the lines knows the minimum and maximum is. Mr. Russell, did you have a third question?
Yes, ma'am. Devonport City Council nature strip policy. You have an 800mm no plant or structure zone to allow for car door opening. Vegetation in Sorrel Street opposite 113 and 115 encroach over the curb, and a council rubbish bin in Fourways is 370mm from the curb. Will you be able to do something about these, as neither fit the policy at the moment? Not quite the rubbish bin, but just an example.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Through you, Mayor. The draft policy is not intended to apply retrospectively, and I believe that's written into the draft policy. Those specific examples, if they were to be create an issue, then we would look to address that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. I would ask members of the gallery to not speak while another member of the gallery has the floor. Thank you.
Trevor Smith, 7 Glencourt, Devonport. Dear Chairperson, before submitting my questions, could I have written replies to my questions rather than have verbal answers? I wish to submit this question. You recently filled in 1 or 2 potholes at the cinema car park behind the CBD shopping precinct. Why are there still more remaining holes at this car park that have been ignored? Also, when will you be remarking the faded directional markings for traffic guiders in and around the cinema car park? This remarking is well overdue and will benefit the ratepayers of Devonport and tourists who use this area daily. This is a safety issue.
Do you have a third question, Mr. Smith?
That was on one, the same space. Oh, well, this is position two. Could you please tell me when you were going to renew the hot white road paint from the intersection of Don Road, Watkinson Street to the roundabout at 4th Road and Stony Rise Road? These line markings are virtually non-existent and are a safety hazard when driving along this section of road at night time.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Douglas Janney, 23 Watkinson Street, Devonport. Question 1. In what year will all current urban streets have a continuous footpath along one side?
Yes, through you, Mayor, we'll take that on notice.
Okay. Right. For the next question, eyes up, please. Fingers off the keyboards. Item 5.3 in the agenda reminds me to ask the following question. What is the name of the well-known person buried at the Don Congregational Cemetery?
Mr. Janney, there are several well-known people buried at the Don Congregational Cemetery. Did you have one in particular?
Well, I'm asking you to tell me.
Well, I know that Mrs. Weindorfer's buried there. I know that there are a couple of leading Devonport established businessmen, and I can't off the top of my head.
First one will do. Thank you.
Is that it? Thank you. Mr. Garden.
Melbourne Garden, 4 Beaumont Drive. Will council confirm the name of the legal entity that Devonport City Council signed the Memorandum of Understanding, or Memorandum of Agreement, whatever it's called, with for the sale of the land for the Parkland Hotel in Best Street and the date it was signed? Now, I accept that you don't know the date, but you may know that.
Well, I'll reply in writing, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Because I don't know the date.
Will council confirm the name or the names of the legal entity or entities that Devonport City Council signed the land sale agreement with for the sale of the land for the Parkland Hotel in Best Street and the date it was signed?
Again, I'll take it on notice, Mr.
Thank you.
Did you have a further question?
I do, Madam Chair. Considering that council has been the owner of the former library building in Fenton Way for some time, and supposedly receiving a commercial rent return from a secured tenant, will council advise if it has any immediate plans to pressure clean the roof and fascias and paint the fascias to improve the current shabby look of the premises, which dates back to the previous ownership by the state government?
I'll take that on notice and as an opinion as much as anything else, but I will respond in writing, Mr. Garden. Thank you.
So you've got no
I
immediate plan?
will respond in writing, Mr. Garden. I didn't say I didn't have a plan. I said I will respond in writing.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Mr. Belcott? Mr. Belcott.
Thank you, Mayor. Bob Bellicott, 11 Cocker Place, Devonport. Mayor and councillors, from time to time there is much confusion and misrepresentation of the requirements of the Local Government Act as to who is eligible to be elected as a councillor and what are the obligations of a person whose situation changes whilst holding office. Mayor, will you ask the General Manager if he can clarify or give his interpretations regarding this? Just simply, when you look up in the Local Government Act, you've got to go parts there, and I know at the moment around town people are thinking of standing, and we wanted just a clear definition. Thank you.
My understanding is the definition is that it's a ratepayer in the city or anyone on the electoral roll. A ratepayer in the city, whether they live here or not, as long as they pay rates.
Yeah, look, through you, Mayor, the Local Government Act's quite clear on what the requirements are. My role is not to provide clarity for that. Mr. Bellicott, if he doesn't understand it, he needs to give his own legal advice on that. But yeah, the Act's there and we comply with the Act.
And certainly,
so we put our own interpretation on it. I just, seeing as you would be vetting them, I would assume. But Mayor, could I finish, please? I would assume that you, or presume more likely, that you'd be able to just give a clear definition on them.
Mr. Bellicott, there are, as the General Manager has said, it's clear in the Act. If the Act isn't clear to you, then perhaps contact the Local Government Division. And the other thing that will happen, you mentioned that people will be looking to stand for council. There will certainly be some information sessions from the Local Government Division and LEGAT over the coming little while around people's requirements as far as being able to stand for an election to clarify those things.
Awesome.
Did you have another question? Did you have another question?
Yes, I have. I refer to the response given by the General Manager in regard to my question on notice for tonight's meeting about legal costs required to avoid releasing or disclosing information about property or place as required by the Ombudsman. In part, the response was legal advice was sought in considering the Ombudsman's determination, for which an invoice is yet to be received, but estimated to be in the order of $1,000. Given all the facts about the problems and time and effort to sort this out and the loss of rental, would you agree that the irony is all of this would have been avoided if legal advice was as it should have been, sought in the first instance before signing the original head lease agreement, and that those who have tried to avoid transparency and openness should now be responsible for the legal costs and not the ratepayers.
I will take that as comment, Mr. Belcott, and I refuse to
Oh, it
answer.
certainly
I
is
will
not a
take that as
comment,
comment,
ma'am. It is
Mr.
a
Belcott.
definite question, thank you.
No, it is not a
I beg
question.
your pardon, it is a question,
It is a
it's
question
not
that I
a comment
refuse.
at all.
A question that I won't accept. Thank you.
So we've got something
Thank you.
behind it, yeah, haven't we?
No, Mr. Belcott,
Further-
thank you.
Further,
Mr. Belcott, you've had your three questions.
further, I note that the general manager avoided
Mr.
answering.
Belcott, you've had your questions. You may sit down now. Thank you.
I haven't asked three questions.
I must run out of fingers. Go.
Thank you. I referred to my question on notice about the unsuitable gravel pathways and open areas situated in the waterfront park. The general manager's response: the materials used are common in contemporary landscape projects throughout the country and are considered fit for purpose. Given the fact that the surface is a soggy mire after rain and wheel ruts and other impressions are now evident, or they were, do you, Mayor and councillors who have made the effort to see the finished first-hand, the unsatisfactory selection of the surface, do you agree with the General Manager's assertion that it is considered fit for purpose? But more importantly, does the parks comply with the Australian standards for persons with mobility in issues? There's other things too.
Is that the question, that last part of that question?
Well, the whole lot, yes, we'll take that.
I will take the last part on notice. I won't accept the rest.
But can I just add, in no way can this be construed, I accuse the contractor of poor workmanship.
You have already pointed that out in your question on notice. Thank you, Mr.
I
Belcott.
realise that, but I'd just like to
Thank you, Mr.
emphasise.
Belcott. Thank you. I have told you I will respond to that last question on notice.
In regards to the Australian standards,
I don't know the Australian standards.
the
Mr. Belcott.
General Manager would.
I will.
He's had plenty of time to look at it.
Yeah, through you there. Nothing further to add, only what's already been written in the agenda, and also confirming that yes, they meet it meets the relevant standards.
Thank you.
There are Australian standards for that. You're saying that they do. Is that correct?
How many times do you need the question answered, Mr. Belcott?
No, I'm just wanting clarification there. Surely I'm entitled to that.
The General Manager has said they do.
But they comply with the Australian standards.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Belcott.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 3.3 is, I apologise, is there anyone else who wants to ask that question? Thank you. Item 3.3 is questions on notice from councillors, and at the time of the agenda there were none received. Item 4.4 is notices of motion, and we don't have any notices of motion at this point. And item 4 is planning authority matters, and again there are no items for us to consider. Item 5.1 is the waste strategy 2018 to 2023, the year 4 status update. Do I have a move of the motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor
Second.
Murphy and Councillor John. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. A very detailed report. It is only noting one of the things in the report sort of did highlight the fact that we didn't meet our year 4 targets of the 5-year strategy. But in this ever-changing space, we will obviously address that in this upcoming budget estimates period.
Thank you. Councillor John.
Yes, thank you. There's been a lot of work done, and we've had a good update the other day. It's always evolving. Since I've been on council, it's been incredible what has been done, what's been achieved. So it's always going to be an issue that we need to spend a lot of time on, spend a lot of money on, unfortunately, and it's just the way of the world. So we're certainly up there and doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor to close the debate.
Thank you, Mayor. As in Catch High grows, a lot of people think local government's responsible for roads, rates and rubbish, and obviously in the next shorter period with the state government waste management levy due to come into play, the community will face some challenges, as we all will, but I believe that Devonport City Council is well positioned to deal with those. Having said that, we'll consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.2 is notice strip policy.
So moved.
Councillor Perry and Councillor Jarman. Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think it's important to note that the recommendation that we're voting on tonight is to endorse our policy for a public consultation period of 30 days. So it gives the public an opportunity to improve or add definition to the policy as we see it. That's a good thing, and when that happens, it'll come back with those suggestions to see if we can improve and add the definition that some people might need to make it a robust policy that we can use going forward. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Jarman.
Yeah, I think the next 30 days will be very interesting once we open this up. It'll be interesting to see what the community have to say about it. I certainly am looking forward to that report. In the past, we've had people approach us at different times for different things, and there's just been no clear definition of what we're allowed to do or what we can say that they can do or can't do, and this will just help to put a lot of clarity into that policy. And I just really look forward to seeing what the community has to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. I think the policy is good. It's a good starting point for us to work on, because people obviously want to know what can I do, and this will guide and hopefully make it easier for everyone.
Thank you. Councillor
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate Councillor Jarman's comments and encouragement to the community to actually take the opportunity to provide feedback. It might not be perfect, but from reading the policy, it's a step in the right direction for sure. And we most definitely encourage people to make comment, and we'll see where it ends up.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Perry to close.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you to fellow councillors for their comments, and consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 5.3 is renaming of Don Hall Reserve. There is a recommendation there with a couple of different points. Do I have a move?
Yes, you do, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Laycock and Councillor Jarman. Councillor Laycock.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I start, I just have to apologise for some inaccurate information I did put forward. That Del Luck isn't John Luck's wife, or wasn't. Del Luck is the wife of Norm Luck. So I just want to clarify that. John Luck's wife was Isabella Beatrice Luck. And I do apologise to everyone concerned that I did send that out. Now, I'm more than happy to put this motion forward again, or it's been put forward for me. I'm not going to go into all the pros and cons. I think if you look at page 22, you will see about Mr. Luck's contribution to Devonport. It starts at the bottom of page 22 and continues a quarter of the way down page 23. Certainly was a very good member of the Devonport community, chairman of the board, town board, which of course is equal to a warden or a mayor, and put a lot of his own money into this community. So at our previous meeting, we did have everybody quite happy to support this motion. So I'm hoping that that will be what happens tonight. As I said, the land out at the Don Hall has a lovely stone sitting right in the middle of it, just waiting to have a plaque put on it. And I think it'd be very fitting if that was named John Luck Reserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John.
Thank you. This certainly had a lot of merit that was brought up by Councillor Devonport previously. And I suppose we're just getting a bit of clarity on how to go about this properly. And it certainly is a wonderful thing to be done, and I'm sure any of his relatives who are still around would be very pleased to come one day and see an unveiling of a plaque maybe, or whatever ends up happening. And I just think it's a lovely thing to do for someone that did so much. To read his history is the best thing that we can do, is sometimes relive what some of those people have done for our area. And this man certainly deserves at least a plaque. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Alexia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'll be supporting this motion. I think it's pretty important that we commemorate the past and the history that's occurred, especially for Mr. Love. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be supporting the recommendation. Sorry? Yeah, I'll be supporting the recommendation. I think having individual names attached to places rather than just a suburb name, or in this case, Diamond Reserve, I think adds a bit of interest to that particular name. Some people seek out that interest. Like in years down the track, we could have Alexio Park at the Devonport Soccer Club, Dennis Oval, the Devonport Oval. I think people would be interested to know why those particular facilities are called that. And I think this is a good example of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Later, close.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your comments. Councillor John actually stole part of my closure, which is great. It's okay. I do envisage a plaque being placed, as I said earlier, on that huge rock. And as we've done for a former alderman many years ago, it would be nice to invite the family in to be part of that for an unveiling, because it is important for the history of our city. And as I said before, I feel that there's lots of things we can do, and hopefully in the future myself or other councillors will be able to bring up the renaming or the naming of some parks. I have started on that, and I hope to be more accurate in the future. And I do have a researcher there to help me out with that, who does that pretty well on a full-time basis. So I think this is a really good start for the history of Devonport. Thank you.
Thank you. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.4 is addendum to the instrument of delegation for the General Manager related to legislative updates.
So moved.
Councillor Hollister, thank you, and Councillor Murphy, thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just a normal legislative requirement for the General Manager to undertake delegated authority when required to by Council under the Local Government Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's probably a pretty good indication in the direction and culture of the organisation as it stands at the moment, the fact that we actually engaged legal representation to seek a review of the GAPS model and delegations, which they identified the discrepancies which after we resolved back in January for the General Manager's delegations, the fact that we now have that level of professional oversight within the organisation. So it's definitely a step in the right direction in the way that we actually handle things nowadays.
Thank you. Are there any other points, questions? I'll ask Councillor Hollister to close the debate.
A good example of this has been during COVID, where the General Managers had to take on more responsibilities. I've got nothing further to add.
Thank you. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.5 is 10 days on the Island Partnership proposal. Do I have a word, please? Councillor Milburn, thank you.
I'll second.
Councillor Perry, thank you. Councillor Milburn.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to note that this is just a note of this and not to give it the go-ahead at the request of 25,000 and to bring it up during our budget deliberations. Was a really good proposal put to us in a workshop, and I look forward to discussing it further.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. I concur with Councillor Milburn's comments. We did receive a very professional presentation from 10 Days on the Island people, and I think at that particular presentation we were all of the mind that this could be a really special event for Devonport, and yeah, it's a consideration of the upcoming budget, so I will be supporting the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holster.
Yes, I think this is a very good partnership proposal. I think the changes they're making for this year, and whether it's starting here instead of finishing here, as I've got it wrong, I think that's right. And
it's the other way around.
Other way around, right. Finishing here, so people will be in the state and around the state leading up to the finish, which will be good for tourism and the economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Alexio.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'll be supporting this motion, and I think what I've got out of it, the presentation, was it's really going to be a massive event for Devonport. And since COVID, I think we've been unfortunate to have many events like such as this happening. So I think we should be opening the doors and welcoming these sort of events to come to the city.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. Yes, I think this just fits with Devonport's growing reputation of supporting the arts, and should be a great event, I reckon.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thanks, Mayor. Obviously, as Councillor Milburn has identified, it's something for us to consider in budget deliberations. I too agree. I think the fact that this event and its popularity and the level of attendance and the people that it will bring to Devonport and what they're proposing is quite unique. And I think the whole premise about what they're looking to do will be something truly spectacular on everybody.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Milburn to pass it down.
Thank you, Mayor. It certainly will be an iconic, exciting event to bring in its people to our area. So I look forward to discussing it further. I'll consider it close.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.6 is the local government review. Endorsing submission. Thank you. Councillor Perry, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. We're recommending that we endorse our attached submission, and it really is a really good submission. We've workshopped it and had a preliminary look at the submission, and it's really something that every other council in Tasmania could look at as a template going forward for local government reform. Of course, that won't happen, and we know my view on this. We are just kicking the can down the road for another review in 3 to 5 years' time. But we've done our bit, and as I said, it's a fantastic submission. Unfortunately, not every council will see it that way, but it should be used as a template going forward. It should be used by government, state government, the opposition, state opposition, as a starting point for trying to create some local government reform, because we badly need it. I'm sure most people would think that we badly need it, and this is an excellent starting point, and full credit to council, led by the General Manager, for coming up with such a really good report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think I can really add too much more to that. I know Councillor Perry, this has been something that he's been involved in for a long period of time, and hopefully it's something that it doesn't get kicked down any further, because it has been long enough, and to coin a phrase, it's time. I think the community now is big enough and can completely understand what the benefits of what's being proposed in this particular document. And as Councillor Perry said, it is a fantastic template for other local government authorities to look at, to use. And The conversation's been going on for a long period of time, and it's now time. And I think this is a step in the right direction, and it's a positive step, and that's how it should be seen.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a great start, and it's really good to get the discussion going and being proactive about it. Something I brought up in the workshop was one of the strong points that I think that we need to push forward is to make sure that our ward or our catchment is big enough to be able to identify a wage for our elected members, so we can act in a full-time manner towards this role. At the moment, it's our allowance does not allow us to be able to represent the people enough, and if we had a big award and we could actually act in a full-time role as a councillor, then we could identify more professionals to bring in to this role. We could look at, or we could start to entice our university leaders and our younger professionals, as well as the older, more mature professionals that we have right now. In order to get a better cross-section and a better representation of our community. So while I think this is a great start, I think that's something that we really need to look into during this reform as well.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Maycock.
Okay, thank you. I won't answer Councillor Milborn's real quick there. I'll let that one go through to the keeper, but I have to say I do endorse Councillor Perry and Murphy's comments there, because it is time that we moved on. And it is an excellent submission, so well done all round. Council's put in their due diligence on this. And yes, I have been around for a little while, and I did attend the local government forum in this room last week. I think it was when you were there, and a couple of others, but that was excellent. I've obviously sat through a few, and I think this makes us, or I feel this gets us just that little bit closer to something happening. I mean, it's got to be the will of the people that we want all these things to happen. And as far as wards go and who we're going to be with and who wants to come with us and who doesn't, that's something that'll be worked out in the future. But we need to get the process started again, and I believe the local government and the state government have started the process in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Horsley.
Yes, I've looked at quite a few reviews over the years, starting right back in 1996, would you believe?
Yes, I would.
And I can say that I think this is review that's been put forward by council now is by far the best that I've seen in that time. So hopefully it'll get a Guernsey this time.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and all the comments from previous councillors. I agree wholeheartedly with it. Congratulations to the General Manager for coming up with a document there that's going to, in place, if everything goes to plan and things do make change. And I think that's probably the most important thing, is that everybody is going to need to change here and have a think about what's going to be better for the whole government sector in Tasmania. Okay.
Thank you. I guess I just want to point out that we can only control what we can control, and this is our view of the best way forward. And it has been Devonport Council's view for quite some time, but it's great to have it articulated in a really good document that we will make public tomorrow, which will cause some interesting conversations, I'm sure. And also it'll be available on the local government review website once they have received it. So it will be a very clear public document, and I guess I'm sure an item of the conversation in our region for some time to come, but that's a good thing.
Shows we're a leader there. Sorry to interrupt, but it does.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, I will ask Councillor Perry to close the debate.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks everyone for their comments, a good range of comments. Again, I would urge other councils and councillors from right across the state to take their hometown goggles off and put their objective glasses on and look at this report as a starting point for what's going to be a long process. So hopefully it'll get up. Thank you.
Thank you. Being the case, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? You still only get one vote, councillor Murphy. The motion's carried unanimously, thank you. Item 5.7 is the draft Devonport residential growth.
So moved.
Etc. Councillor Murphy
Second.
and Councillor Perry. Was Councillor Perry just a second?
Yeah.
Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. This particular piece of work that's been compiled over a long period of time is probably the most significant policy direction that the council has probably had to undertake in a long period of time. Living City is slowly improving its net worth for Devonport and the direction it's heading. This here will actually cement us into the future. The opportunities or the lack of them that were outlined in the regional residential growth strategy, which is well past its use by date, was very pessimistic in its forecast for Devonport and its future growth. This document is going to arrest that. And I think for a municipality such as Devonport to continue to grow, again, as we did with the nature strip policy, I would encourage people to have a look at this, make comment, but truly understand something. If we don't endorse this in a very short space of time, we are going to find ourselves in a very tricky situation. It is the next step for Devonport, and it's extremely important. There's not really too much more to add there, but yeah, I would encourage as many people as possible to have a look at it and to provide their input.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Murphy's pretty much summed it up. I would just add that I think Devonport's on the cusp of a real growth phase, growth spurt, leveraging off commercial sector, and that's leveraging off Living City. So that the reason we did Living City in 2012, or decided to do it in 2012, is to be at this stage we're at now, 10 years later, and for us to really leverage off that properly, we do need a residential growth strategy, not an ad hoc policy that doesn't sustain us for the future. And I think that the strategy is really good, and I'm looking forward to comments, suggestions from people. And again, we come back, we sit down, we look at those suggestions, comments, so we can improve the policy, and then we adopt it going forward. So I'm looking forward to that process if it happens before October. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. I think it's really essential that we strategically plan and prepare for the growth, and to make it happen, you need to have these sorts of thoughts and conversations prior to, so that it doesn't happen in an ad hoc sort of way, but a prepared and planned way. That's the way we can show really good leadership in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the city's definitely grown very quickly, and we can all see that with the way the property is at the moment. And this plan going forward is going to be the best thing for the city, so it's a good thing to have.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close the vote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we've workshopped it and over a long period of time, so there's not much more to add there. Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6 is information. Item 6.1 is workshops and briefing sessions held since the last meeting. Do I have any?
So moved.
Second. Murphy and John. Councillor Murphy.
Again, procedural, Mayor. We've had some really good workshops, especially the one on 10 days on the island.
Thank you. Councillor John.
Yes, it's all pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Do you have any comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.2 is the Mayor's monthly report.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Laycock and Councillor Murphy. Thank you, Councillor Laycock.
Thank you, Mayor. Another busy month. Good to see you out and about. Just wondering, with the citizenship ceremonies, do you do any at different venues apart from council? If you had a special request?
I'm open to that request. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll catch up with you later.
Okay.
That's good. That's all I've got to say.
They're the planned quarterly public ones.
Yes, I understand.
It is possible to do private ones.
Thank you.
Any other? Sorry, Councillor Murphy, this is the second one.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, yeah, you've been very busy. Very busy.
Any comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Laycock to close, please.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. Motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.3 is the General Manager's report for the month. Can I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you.
Second that.
Councillor Alexia, Councillor Murphy.
Again, merely procedural, Mayor. Note the GM has sort of been fairly busy with a number of other external activities that he's now required to attend.
Thank you, Councillor Alexia.
Nothing further, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other comments or questions of the General Manager? I will ask Councillor Murphy to close the
Consider it closed.
motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.4 is the infrastructure and works report for the 2 months. I think, if I remember right. Do I move, please? So moved. Councillor Jarman, thank you.
Second.
Councillor Murphy, Councillor Jarman.
I'm noting this is also a recommendation from Mr Williams for just noting the 25,000 that's coming through for the capital works program for Eastern Rec. So very happy to do that. I don't know if anyone else has walked around the back of that stadium in the wet, trying to get into the back access of the stadium for the kids, and nothing worse. So it's certainly something that we should have done a long time ago, but because it's been highlighted, seeing the car park for the state government to utilise for a different reason. So it'll be money well spent. So I'm very happy to recommend that. And good to see everything else that's going on in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
Yes, it's worth noting that a number of significant projects have come to an end as well, which is good. It's going in the right direction.
Thank you. Councillor Holster.
This is sort of an indication at the moment with COVID as to when we'll get full access back to the function centre in East Devonport.
Through you there, yeah, it's certainly going to be some time yet, and that's a result of that. The government made available that 25,000, which has allowed those works to be done, which has allowed, or will allow the users to get back into the facility at the same time. The government will be adding the total clinic will be adding the car park for, I'm guessing, 12 months or more.
But that does give us access to the
That's
facility.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Jarman to close the door.
I will also note that it's really high time that we got the Hosket Creek toilet block going, so that's great that that's going to happen because it's a well utilised area. And I know we put it off for a really good reason last time, but this time it's going to go ahead, so that's great. Yeah, nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 6.5 is the Development and Health Services report. Can I move it, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Seconder?
Second that.
Councillor Alexia. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Merely proceeded. Not as big a report this month, for the bi-monthly, which is good. So not as many issues as what we normally see sometimes.
Thank you, Councillor Alexia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, everything's in the report there. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other questions, comments? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close the
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 7.1 is section 23 committees, and we have a report from the Planning Authority Committee meeting of the 11th of April. Do I move it, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Councillor Kerr, Councillor Murphy,
Move second.
Councillor Kerr.
Proceed.
Any comments, questions? And the last Councillor Murphy, please.
I always thought.
Thank you. Motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. That brings us to the end of our open section of this last council meeting at 6:20. Can I have a motion to move into closed session?
Second.
Councillor Milborn and Councillor Murphy, any comments from either of you?
No comments.
Second, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. That brings us to an end of the open section. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance.